Cool. All right. Welcome back to the Roadmap to Retirement podcast. Liam, tell the people about yourself.
This is Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
Alex, thanks for having me. Liam Hanlon. I am the head of insights for Jump Advisor AI. If you haven't heard of Jump, we are an AI meeting assistant, the #1 ranked by market share and user satisfaction within financial advice. Head of insights is really a fancy name for head of data and analytics. We have this robust inventory of the most powerful and unique data in the world at our disposal, and we are figuring out ways to employ it for our advisors and our accounts within the Jump ecosystem in the most meaningful ways possible. And maybe we can talk about that a little more today throughout the pod, but that's the overview.
Okay, love it. This segues nicely. I was talking to a client this week who was in my office, and I shared with him that I'm going to a conference next week, and he asked a good question I thought of. What do you hope to get out of the conference, or what do you hope to learn about? And I guess I hadn't really thought about that myself, so I kind of had to do a pause, and I tried to give him the most honest and direct answer possible. And one of the things that I am interested in learning about is like how to make my job more efficient, leveraging technology, which goes directly into what you do and what you're talking about. And just for your own knowledge, some of our listeners are like the end client, some of our listeners are other advisors or people in industry. So I thought it was interesting to me though, like this client was curious about the behind the scenes world and what we do. And he came from a similar industry, so there's some overlap there. But let's start there. What is like the #1 thing that you think advisors can be doing to leverage technology to be more efficient?
This is a great question. So 2 years ago, the University of Chicago did a study across 11 different professions. And the question they were trying to answer was, which profession has the best or worst utilization of AI tools? Among those professions were teachers, lawyers, customer service, like your typical 11. Financial advisors was a part of the study. And advisors at that time had the lowest adoption of general AI tools, not only in their personal life, but at work. And they also had the lowest awareness. This makes sense. Alex, you're a bit of a unicorn within the industry. Most advisors are about twice your age. And so technology adoption in the industry itself for a long time has been lagging to other industries. So no surprise there. However, wealthmanagement.com did a study not too long ago, within the last year. So 2 years after University of Chicago came out with that. And they report that 66% of advisors now use AI within their day-to-day workflow. So this is a fundamental shift. And the reason why this is happening is because if you look at Kitces research from 2019, advisors were spending 75% of their time on maintenance, on mundane tasks that could be automated, but forever we've been searching for the technology to be able to do that, to be able to take that task from the advisor, automate it, and make it so that it opens up that amount of time. What we've found, and I'll speak to Jump specifically, and other tools have other success in different proportions of the advisor's workflows, but Jump users who use Jump for pre-meeting prep, post-meeting documentation, post-meeting task assignments, so on and so forth, on average, 60% of our advisors save over an hour per day, or 250 hours per year. So 60% of our users are saving 250 hours per year. That's reclaimed time. The time doesn't disappear. Yeah, now you don't have to spend it on maintenance, but now you also get it back and you can spend it the way you want. And when we ask our advisors, what are you doing with the time that you've gotten back? 50% say delivering more client service, 48% say deepening relationships and prospecting. You can see the trend emerging here. Advisors were thirsting for the opportunity to have more client meetings, to do more client service, to deepen the relationships they have and grow new relationships that they haven't had the opportunity to explore with this new time. So the #1 thing that I think advisors should be doing today is utilizing those tools that are at their disposal. We've gotten really good at taking away the maintenance tasks from advisors and opening up that time. Let me pause, Alex. What do you think?
Take a pause. So it's one of the questions I might fire back at you is we talk about the adoption rate of advisors starting to use this technology. And we've always been a lagging industry. So like another kind of offshoot example, is until COVID happened, I feel like most companies were not allowing full integration of e-signature, which is crazy. There was a lot of times in my young career where you could do like the account application could be done electronically, but a transfer form had to be wet signed or so like our industry is always lagging behind the rest of the world, it seems. And I think a lot of that is just like compliance red tape. And the same thing with AI. Like I'm sure most firms that you run into, you have to get the firm to come in with their compliance department, do due diligence on the software that you're offering, get it approved before the advisor can even use it. So like
Yeah.
we're always going to be a few years behind. And now, from what I've seen in the industry, it seems like services like Jump AI are finally being adopted by the larger firms and getting to a point where like advisors can use them without getting in trouble. Do
Yeah.
you think that's the number one thing holding back people from using them?
There is a history and connotation of technology being a compliance protocol issue or concern. And it's one of the things we've had to overcome early in our journey, and others like us have had to do as well, especially with AI, a technology that not a lot of people understand how it works on the back end. There's so much fear around breaking the rules and regulations, and more than most, this industry comes with the most rules and regulations of any industry out there. So yeah, compliance, configuration, adherence is step one. If you don't have that, if you're not compliant across the board, SOC 2 and all of these other industry regulated standards, then you're never going to make it, right? And so that's actually where we found our niche. Note takers existed before Jump and before some of our competitors, but none existed within financial advisory space and were compliant with everything that you have to be compliant with. Advisors are still seeing, we're still seeing among advisors some fear around adoption, but I wouldn't say that is one of the main barriers to adoption. You're an LPL advisor. LPL has made note taking available through Jump as a strategic partner for over a year now. I'll throw it back at you. When you look at Jump, you had mentioned before we got on, you're interested in note taking. You clearly know the power behind it. What's stopping you? What, if you had to psychoanalyze yourself and your team, what stops you from making that decision and adopting the tech?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple things. One is just a general procrastination. So I've been at
Mhm.
LPL for 3 months and 1 day.
Yeah,
So I'll give myself a little grace period there.
definitely.
So I'd like to do that. I think part of the hesitation is even just, I'm not sure if you're legally required to, but I would want to make clients aware that I'm using this technology and basically recording our conversation. So I guess I'm a little bit, I don't know, it's probably just a thing in my mind more than a reality, but like how would clients react if I explained to them, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I'm be using Jump AI, which is technology to help me take better notes. Then of
Yeah.
course you can say it like that, and I think it sounds fine, but I built this kind of thing in my mind where I think clients are going to either push back on it or be made uncomfortable by it. So maybe you can
Yeah.
speak to, I'm sure you have an answer to that. Go ahead.
Not off the shelf, but what my previous job,
No, sir.
I worked in wealth and asset management consulting for 7 years, and we went and we analyzed for years why people wouldn't adopt financial planning technology. The number one reason, what you had just said isn't a direct answer to this, but indirectly, what you're assessing is the risk versus return of this technology. If I do this with my client, are they going to feel weird? Am I going to potentially disrupt this relationship in a way that fundamentally shifts the dynamic? I've lost trust that I've built for years. It is so difficult to build a book of business. Many people, most advisors don't make it to where you are today. They stop short because it is that hard. So when you have sacrificed so much to foster this organic relationship with somebody that you probably didn't even know, you're not willing to risk it for the promise of maybe your day is more efficient because of this technology. That's not enough. So we've done a few things to try to overcome that. Number one, you can pilot our technology. And if you're an LPL advisor, I think you get like a few months free
Yeah, so
or
I already did that. I did that, and either I wasn't following through on it, I couldn't get the integration set the way I wanted it. So what I really need is somebody from your team to
yep.
talk to my assistant and get it all set up so I can just show up and talk. That's all I want to do. I don't want to. I get so frustrated screwing around with technology that doesn't work correctly. Not at all saying that yours wouldn't work correctly, but the idea of having to learn how to do some new software that's going to have a glitch in it, and I would want Jump AI to integrate cleanly with Redtail so the notes go right there without me having to like copy and paste, which I know was available, but then I don't want to do it. I want someone else to do it. So somebody from your team is going to get a hold of my people later, and then it'll be great.
So this is the second barrier. So the first one is risking the relationship, and the second one is the perceived ease of use. Am I going to have to study this thing to learn it? Because I could be spending this time with a client or doing marketing, things that have a higher ROI potential right away. And so this is a big deal. We have, I think, the best onboarding product specialist that I've ever seen. His name is Nathan, and he's just beloved. I wish I had half of the just like the love that our clients have for him. I wish I had even.
Nathan sounds pretty great, to be honest with you.
He's the best. Yeah.
Yeah,
So he
makes
makes
sense.
these, he does weekly calls, onboarding calls. He does YouTube videos. He'll get on the horn with you. We have client service managers and relationship managers. This is a big deal. Adopting technology. This is what financial planning tools got wrong, is they didn't have the experience to help people get configured and to help them learn this tool. Because once you learn it, it is very easy. But learning anything is difficult, and it takes mental stimulation. It takes effort that most people don't have the time in their day or don't want to spend the time in their day doing. So that is barrier number two. So you've hit both. No surprise, right? This is what everybody's dealing with when they're contemplating these decisions. I will say LPL advisors, I think there's 12,000 total. Is that right?
30,000, I believe.
Okay,
That's a lot. We keep buying firms.
Okay. Yeah.
I only know a ton of them.
Okay. There, it's growing, but I think we're now at one year and change mark. We're up to 5,000 advisors just within the LPL networks. We're seeing, and the adoption isn't, I would say, it's not fading. It's still growing today, even a year later. So pretty exciting.
Okay. This is I wasn't planning on recording this kind of conversation, but you got like a teed up, my light went off, teed up like sales pitch ready to go. Send it to people. This is making you more efficient too.
Yeah, we should have had an account executive or the head of sales join. But no, this is great. I like debating. Jump's not perfect. I love Jump. I quit my last job when I saw a Jump demo. I had, in my previous role, was responsible for interviewing founders of wealth tech that were using AI. I had done 30 of these interviews to date. I loved all of them. But when I saw Jump, I said to myself, I'd leave my company to go and join that company, because that's the belief I had in it. I had been inside of every major financial institution's wealth management division in the past 7 years, and I saw their biggest problems, and Jump solved most of them. So right then and there, I texted the CEO and I said, if you ever want to make something happen, I'm all in. And we,
Right.
a few
Here you
months
are.
later, it happened. Yeah.
Sorry, another technology issue. My light keeps going out. Is anybody who's watching this can see, so that's cool. We're gonna ignore that though. A little distracted by that, but yeah. So Jump AI. What else do we want to talk about?
Yeah, and you can edit all that out, right? There you go.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about, what did we talk about before? So here's a good one. So when you look at wealth tech map in the past, let's say 5 years, Kitchis and Craig, I forget who, the Ezra group, they collab to put together a map of all of the technologies that exist within wealth for financial advisors. They're at the disposal of you and your firms. It's grown by, I want to say, over double, maybe triple in the past 3 to 5 years. The advent of AI has done that. There's more startups in 2023 and in 2024 than that have existed in the previous 10 years. AI has democratized the ability to create new technology. It's easier now and it's cheaper now than it's ever been before. And so a lot of the problems that have existed for a long time are now being solved because we have this democratization of technology at our disposal. However, for advisors, we talked about at the beginning of this, most of the energy and the attention has gone towards reclaiming time. And now we have to think forward. We've now saved 250 hours per week. How are we going to optimize the 250 hours per year? How are we going to optimize the 250 hours per year? And so what I'm looking at in the wealth tech space and at Jump is, how can we now help advisors in the areas that they're spending their time on? Client meetings, prospecting, so on and so forth. Here's the cool thing we're doing at Jump. If you have a conversation with a client, right? Maybe you have 1,000 in a year. Would that be odd for you? How many meetings do you have with a client in a year, Alex? Not one client, all of your clients.
Probably close to 1,000, maybe a little bit less. Yeah.
That's what we see on average, 500 to 1,000. And how many prospecting calls do you have?
Calls, maybe, I don't know, 30 to 40 a year.
Again, spot on. 30 is the average number of prospecting calls for a young advisor. So across LPL, we talked about there's 20 to 30,000 advisors. They're each having 30 prospecting calls per year. What we're going to be able to do for the LPL account is which of those prospecting calls is ending in success and which are ending in, I don't want to say failure, but non-conversion, right? And what are the common patterns of the conversations that are ending in success? And this is something we've already done for some of our strategic clients. We've reviewed 10,000 prospecting calls. And what we found was there's 4 conversational variables that if the advisor says them, or sometimes their behavior so does them during the call, you can increase your likelihood of converting that prospect to a client from 30%, which is the baseline conversion rate in the United States of converting a prospect to a client, to 87%. So almost 3x, you have now increased your likelihood. So instead of having the 30 prospecting calls a year, in which case I will assume that you convert 10 of them, but I'm not going to make that assumption about you. But in general, advisors convert about 10 out of every 30. Why not just have 10 and you convert 8 of them, or 20 and you convert 16 of them? That's the promise of the next level of this technology. And why I'm excited about it is AI started as a prediction machine. AI is meant to predict what humans want, right? And Gen AI is just predicting what they should say based on your text, what they should respond. But that's not the best use of the technology. The best use of it is utilizing it to predict outcomes, to predict what I should say to improve the likelihood that a prospect would become a client, what I should say to improve the likelihood that a client will provide me with the referral, what I should say to improve the likelihood that if I'm doing a Roth conversion, or if I want my client to do a Roth conversion and I pitch it to them, that they'll actually agree to that Roth conversion, which right now, by the way, only 20% of clients that are recommended a Roth conversion go through with it. We can increase that number to 88% based on what we've found. So that's the promise of the next generation of AI within wealth tech. It will shift from how are we saving time to how can we optimize the time we've saved. You don't have to have 250 prospecting calls in 5 years. You can have 50, and then you can save that time and spend it now on the current clients and grow even a bigger book, or just have a more efficient book. Identify the assets that you haven't in the past. Let me pause there. That's a monologue, Alex, but what do you think?
You're good. That all makes sense. It's a more efficient way to build a script. I remember early in my career getting like the script books from, I won't name any names, people that are well known in our industry for writing scripts, and
Sure.
my sales managers of the past would tell you to read them and read them in front of the mirror and rehearse them and make them your own. And I never did, but I survived. Here I am.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff.
I love that. The other part of that's really interesting is, let me ask you this. Before you get onto a client call, let's say I was your client today, other than your like typical pre-meeting prep, you're going through their CRM, the information you have on them, is there anything else you do to prepare about what are some of the questions they might bring up? Like the one big beautiful bill has been talked about a lot recently. Where are you going to stay abreast of the hottest topics in the news that might impact your client conversations?
As far as current events and stuff like that, I would say I do a fair amount of reading with no particular one source.
Yeah.
My pre-meeting routine is typically I'm sending the prospective clients something about myself, my firm ahead of time. A lot of times it's a clip from a podcast or something different that we have. A lot of the people that I work with come to me through seminars and other events that we do, or they're referred to me. So I like to have the person coming for the first meeting already know quite a bit about me. And usually that's why they're coming to see me, hopefully. So I don't feel like it's ever really blind. I don't know if I'm answering your question at all, but that's the direction I chose to take it.
You very much are. So my point behind that was every advisor has their own, I will say, practice of doing this. We provide pre-meeting prep, obviously, and so that saves time because it consolidates all of these sources that you would go to into one document. And so instead of jumping from tool to tool, sure, now you have pre-meeting prep. But again, that's just time saved. But what we're really excited about is I go to Twitter Trends, Google Trends, CNBC for my news to see what's trending. Because every day I have to put out a LinkedIn post on financial advisors' data. And I gotta stay hot, right? Like you can't post about 529s 2 weeks after 529s were hot. You're too late. So we took this idea and we applied it to financial advisor conversations. What we're excited about is we've replaced the need for Google Trends, X or Twitter or whatever people are calling it, so TikTok, social media, news cycles. What we're doing now is within LPL, this isn't happening within LPL specifically, but for the case of the hypothetical, because you're an LPL advisor or associated advisor, you would be able to see if you're jumping on a call with a client today, what are the most popular topics among all of the clients that have had conversations with advisors today? So that you can see in live time, hey, the big beautiful bill, before you even know what that is, that's trending. You can click into that and see why it would be trending, or Musk and Trump are trending. And maybe you weren't up till 2 a.m. watching their Twitter battle and you click into it and say, oh, that's why it's trending. And what are the opportunities that come with that? Number one, no more surprises. No more clients saying, hey, what's the deal with NVIDIA's stock? And you're like, yeah, no. And you're looking it up on the side because you can't stay hot on every topic. But this will allow you to know what they're going to say, what their fears are before they jump into a call. Another way that AI can give back to the advisor, not just their time, but to help them succeed in that conversation. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it is cool. I try not to get caught off guard with. I don't know if my clients ask a lot of those pointed, specific questions, but it's something happened where somebody says, "Oh, did you see the news on this?" And I'm like, "I am a millennial that doesn't watch the news, so no." But I do try to stay up to date in other ways. It's interesting. I think it depends how you define the job. Think of the financial advice I provide, financial planning, as being evergreen in a way. If I recommend a client invest in a certain way or takes distributions in a certain way, it's really not influenced by what happens next in Israel. It doesn't matter. And like clients have those concerns, they come to us with those questions, and it's, should I be doing something differently because there's a trade war and the market's down? And no, you're not going to do anything differently because we built this portfolio to withstand these kinds of things. We know that we have cash on hand to generate the income that you need, so you can sleep tonight knowing that you're still retired. You don't have to go find a job. All that being said, is clients still come with those questions, and I could see this being a valuable way to be prepared.
Yeah, and even what you just said is really meaningful, right? So like these news cycles, they don't impact your recommendations, but what they do impact is clients' willingness to accept a recommendation. I'll give you an example based on real data we've collected. If you're pitching an annuity, annuities are really hot right now within retirees, right? It's this form of fixed income. It's had a negative connotation in the past, but we've gotten rid of most of the variable annuities with high fees, commission-based products. Okay, so if you're pitching an annuity, if your client is confident in the market, right? If they have a confident market outlook, the stock market, the global market, geopolitical, if they're confident and happy, 67% likelihood they'll accept your recommendation on an annuity. If they're uncertain or if they're fearful, concerned about the market, that drops to 40%. That's a huge shift, right? The difference is 27%. 27% divided by 40% is more than 50%. It's a fundamental change in whether or not they'll accept your recommendation about a product. So going into a meeting, we also have something called the Client Fear Index. It'll tell you how fearful clients are that day. And it's based on conversational sentiment analysis that we're doing in the background. And what it will tell you is, I'm going in with Liam. Here's what's hot, OBB, the one big beautiful bill. Client fear is high today. Maybe it's wise for you to proactively address this, because if you don't, and you just get into your recommendations, which is ultimately what the meeting is about, making recommendations or changes, slight changes to the plan. If you jump into those, your likelihood of succeeding and getting that person to agree is lower than it would have been if you just address their concerns proactively and make them happier or make them more confident in the market. So just some really cool data that backs up why we're providing this.
All right. Love it.
Yeah.
So how do I get like a coupon code to get a discount on this thing?
I will send that so that we can flash it at the end of this call. LPL advisors they have great deals, but we have great deals across all of our affiliates and our strategic partners. But I'm going to send you a QR code.
All right. Love it.
All right.
They always tell you get a deal from whatever broker dealer or firm you're affiliated with. They'll always a special offer, and then you look it up and it's the same across the board. But you didn't hear that from me.
I think we got a great one for LPL specifically. So I'm going to send that to you, and we're going to get you hooked up with Nathan, who's going to get your team all synced up.
All right. Perfect. Can't wait to talk to Nathan. I can't wait to have somebody else talk to Nathan. That'll be good. All right. We got a few minutes left. Anything else you want to close on here today?
I think thanks for having me. Number one, this was fun. The things that I'm looking forward to is seeing how this industry changes. People like yourself mentioned millennial. I think you're a unicorn within this business. It's mostly dominated by people that are older and they have older clients, but we have this new generation of end users, of end clients emerging, the inheritors of the world. The great wealth transfer is underway, or it has been for a while, and $120 trillion is changing hands. And McKinsey estimates that in 10 years, we'll be 100,000, or 100,000. That's right, 100,000 advisors short of the demand that we'll need to support the people of this country, of the clients, the future financial advisory clients of this country. I'm super interested in how AI can take what we currently have and make the Alexes of the world, make your job easier, optimize the parts that you don't want to do and that are just a waste, and really help you focus on deepening those relationships, growing your book, so that we can sustain a future where the people that need advice get it. I'm excited about that. Maybe we can nerd out about it on another pod sometime.
I'm sure we can. All right, Liam, thank you for joining us today. This has been the Roadmap to Retirement podcast, and we will cut it off there.
Thanks, Alex.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Liam Hanlon is not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Cultivate Financial Planning.